Here I am, an African slave, being sent to Puerto Rico in order to work free labor. I am bringing with me religions such as ancestor worship and spiritism.
I am also an African slave who is bringing over dance from Africa to Puerto Rico.
I'm also an African slave, going to Puerto Rico, bringing literature with me. Oh, hi. I'm an African slave, bringing music to Puerto Rico.
I am the final slave in our shipment to Puerto Rico. Along with my presence, I also brought my own language, which will then influence the Spanish spoken on the island.
We are sad slaves, but we are bringing culture from Africa to Puerto Rico.
Hi, I'm here to talk about the religious effects the African diaspora had on Puerto Rico. The Africans migrated to Puerto Rico to perform free labor in 1510. With them, they brought many religious practices, traditions, beliefs, contradicting the belief that African religion had been lost when they were migrated to Puerto Rico. When they arrived to Puerto Rico, they were under the Catholic Church and practiced Christianity. While many pledged their allegiance to the Catholic Church, they continued to worship African gods and ancestors. This worship is known as spiritism and is relevant to Puerto Rican culture today. This spiritism did not abolish Christianity, but instead mixed with Catholic faith and other native and European traditions, making new and diverse religious practices. The Africans performed religious celebrations as a way to organize rebellions against the Spaniards. They created secret societies known as cofradías in order to freely practice their religion. Yet, thanks to the Treaty of Paris and other laws passed, Africans are free to worship our ancestors and spirits freely, with respect to Christian morals and public order. Thanks for listening.
Oh, hello there. I'm assuming you're here to learn a little bit about African literature in Puerto Rico. Let me educate you. Now, African literature originated in Africa, of course, and it originated when Europeans came through Africa to convert them to Christianity and found out that they did not know how to read and write very well, so they taught them how to read and write, and that is where their literacy originated. And Puerto Rican literature, Luis Pales is a Puerto Rican poet, and he used poetry to spread black identity throughout Puerto Rico. Also, Puerto Rican literature has many languages, styles, and imagery. The changes in Puerto Rico are reflected in their poetry. And also a popular type of poetry is Nuyorican, and it uses music like salsa and styles and black urban languages to portray it. Now on to the convergence of the two. Africans were portrayed very badly in Puerto Rican literature. Since they were slaves coming over, people didn't exactly respect them or portray them highly in their books. And George Lamming wrote that Caribbean literature was the black rock of Africa, and how Africans were perceived terrible in Puerto Rican literature, and they played a very degrading role. So, that is it, and now you may learn more about culture in Puerto Rico that has been brought over from Africa.
So music in Puerto Rico and Latin America was a daily part of life. Music was sung to help lift the slaves' and comprised of lyrics and dance that are related to feelings and emotions of love and compassion. Decima is a type of music that combines poetry with lyrics and rhythm. One of the most popular types of music is bamba. The earliest form of this music can be dated back to 1797. The bamba was a slave's and the free blacks' way of the most important social event and means of their expression. This music was performed primarily with drums, and when the music begins to play, the dancers interpreted their dance moves with the drummers to compete and stay in tune with their steps. This is so popular because it creates challenging competition between the drummers and the dancers. These events that the bamba was played at were events such as birthdays, weddings, christenings, and were also performed for resistances and rebellions among the slaves. Puerto Ricans perform music with religious practices also. There are 3 types of the Rosario Canto, which is a sung rosary. The first type of sung rosary is called the Rosario de Promesas, which is the Rosary of Promises. They would pray and sing this prayer when a person needed a solution to a problem. The second is called the Rosario a la Santa Cruz, which is dedicated towards Mary. This regarded for fertility. Lastly was the Rosario para los muertos, which people sung for the dying and the death of relatives or friends. Many Afro-Puerto Rican musical traditions still exist today. They may perhaps be encountering a comeback. Regardless, these practices and traditions have diffused among different cultures and different countries to have become very diverse, creating musical influence that will surely never disappear.
Now I am going to discuss in what ways did the Africans influence Puerto Rico's form of entertainment, such as dance. The first main culture that influenced Puerto Rico was the Yoruba culture. Yoruba music is regarded as one of the most important components of the modern Nigerian popular music scene. Interpretation involves rendering African musical expression using a mixture of instruments from different horizons. Yoruba music traditionally centered around folklore and spiritual worship, utilizing basic and natural instruments such as clapping of the hands. The first main dance that was from Africa that went to Puerto Rico was the bamba. It was brought over by black slaves who worked on the island's sugar plantations in the 17th century. Bamba is described as a dialogue between the dancer and the drummer. It's as if the drummer were challenging the dancer to a rhythmic duel. The dance can go on just as long as the dancer can continue.
I love this question. It's really great. So what you just witnessed was a little snippet of the English language, but what about Puerto Rican language? Puerto Rican language was heavily influenced by the presence of Africans, or bozos, the African-born slaves, that were transported to the island by the Spanish. In the beginning, the bozo slaves had trouble learning the European languages, and so, naturally, their different flares on it were then added into the Spanish language as it is now. This is shown in the text, not a lot because most of the bozo texts were imitations made by the white man, but in the ones that do exist, it shows differentiated Afro-Puerto Ricanized Spanish. A couple examples of this is the use of the ta or ta plus the infinitive, or another example is the bare infinitive minus the final r in a variant verb. These are strictly shown in Puerto Rico and other Caribbean islands, and shows ways in which language was influenced by the Afro slaves.
Oh, it's really great. Thank you so much for watching our presentation on African culture in Puerto Rico.
I'm Chelsea Weatherhead.
I'm Corey Smith.
I'm Ashley Frankenstein.
I'm Julia Gosen.
And I'm Nikki Beck.
And that's all, folks!